You do not even understand why they are on your mind. Yesterday you were fine, you did not speak to them. You were not even thinking about them. But today, it feels like they have entered your chest and stayed there. They show up in your dua. They appear in your dreams. They live in the quiet moments when your mind should be empty. The most confusing part is that you do not know what this means. Is it love? Is it desire? Is it regret? Or is it a sign from Allah? You reach for your phone and their name appears on your screen. It is not a new message. It is a memory, a picture, a clip from weeks ago that returns without warning. You close it quickly, but the feeling remains heavy. It follows you like a shadow. It makes you wonder if there is more to it than coincidence. Did Allah put them back into your thoughts for a reason? Is this a test that you must learn from? Or is it guidance that you are meant to follow? Nobody speaks about this stage when someone comes back into your life, not in reality, but in your thoughts, and you cannot tell if it is a blessing or a trap. When this happens, your mind begins to search for answers. You try to name the feeling, but it keeps shifting. Maybe it is love. Maybe it is only desire. Maybe it is a regret that never healed. Or maybe it is a test from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to show you what is still unsettled in your heart. The mind plays out every option, and each one feels possible for a moment. You ask yourself if this is destiny, or if it is simply your own imagination dressed up as destiny. Sometimes the nafs takes a silent wish and disguises it as something sacred. Sometimes shaitan whispers into your heart and convinces you that distraction is guidance. And sometimes Allah allows a thought to return, not because the person is written for you, but because the thought itself is a mirror. It reflects the parts of you that still cling to what was or what you hoped would be. That is why it feels so heavy. That is why it feels so real. It is not always a sign to move forward. It may be a sign to look inward. It is possible that what you miss is not even the person, it is the way you felt when you thought of them. It is the comfort of being noticed, the thrill of being seen, the safety you imagined when their presence was near. One moment, one word, one glance was enough for your heart to build an entire future. This is how fantasy begins. It does not need permission. It does not wait for reality. It builds entire stories in your head. You replay conversations that never happened. You hold on to promises that were never made. You imagine healing that they never offered. And without knowing it, you fall in love with the version of them your mind created, not the person they truly are. That is when love turns into a fitna. Love is meant to soften the heart toward Allah, but when it hardens the heart against His decree, it becomes dangerous. You start resenting unanswered prayers. You start questioning destiny. You begin to confuse your own projection with divine confirmation. The truth is, you may not be obsessed with them. You may only be attached to the idea of them. Sometimes the thought of a person is not placed in your heart so that you chase them. Sometimes it is placed there so that you notice yourself. Allah Azza wa Jalla may return a name to your mind, not as a promise, but as a lesson. It could be a lesson about where you attach your worth. It could be a reminder of a dua you once made in tears, asking for clarity, asking for love, asking for healing. The thought comes back not because they belong to you, but because you need to face what you once asked for. Not every answered dua brings peace at first. Some bring discomfort. Some bring confusion. They strip away illusions so that only truth remains, and the truth is often heavier than fantasy. That is why your heart feels unsettled. That is why you cannot stop thinking. The thought is not always an invitation to pursue them. It may be an invitation to return to Allah, to clean the places in your soul that still cling to something other than Him, and to find strength in surrender instead of obsession. When the heart feels pulled in this way, you need to pause before you act. The first sign that this is not guidance is when the thought pulls you away from Allah instead of bringing you closer. If your prayers become weaker, if your focus breaks, if your routines collapse, then what you are holding on to is not love, it is a warning. The second sign is restlessness. A sign from Allah brings calm even when it is difficult, but a distraction brings only confusion. The third sign is that you are not looking for clarity, you are only looking for confirmation. You want the answer you already wrote in your mind, not the truth that Allah may be showing you. This is the point where you must set boundaries. Step back from triggers that reopen the wound. Limit the spaces where their name keeps flashing before you. Fill those spaces with remembrance instead. Write down your feelings honestly in a journal, so your mind does not recycle the same thoughts. Pray with full trust, not for approval of your fantasy, but for the strength to accept whatever is real. When you are unsure about your feelings, the best way forward is to test your own heart. Ask yourself 3 simple questions and do not run from the answers. The first question is this: if this person never returns to your life, will you still find peace with Allah? If the answer is no, then you have made them greater than your Lord. The second question is this: if they return, but take you further away from faith, will you still call it destiny? If the answer is yes, then what you seek is not love, but attachment. The third question is this: if Allah gives you someone better for your deen, your heart, and your future, but it is not them, will you be able to accept it with gratitude? If you hesitate, then it means you are not chasing love, you are chasing control. These 3 questions are heavy, but they bring clarity. They expose whether your longing is rooted in faith or in fear. And clarity is more valuable than the sweetest illusion because it brings your heart back to the only one who never confuses you. There is nothing wrong with having dreams. The heart was created to hope, to long, to imagine. But when a dream begins to compete with Allah, it becomes a danger. Fantasy does not ask for permission. It builds its own world and pulls you inside. It makes you hold on to a version of someone that never existed. You begin to measure your worth by how close or how far they are. You lose focus in prayer. You feel heavier in worship. You blame qadar for not matching the picture in your head. That is how fantasy becomes a fitna. It is no longer love. It is no longer a hope for goodness. It becomes resentment against destiny. The Prophet ﷺ said that the heart of the son of Adam turns faster than a boiling pot. This means feelings are never stable. They are not always signs. Sometimes they are storms. If the thought of a person weakens your worship, if it fills you with jealousy, if it makes you restless instead of grateful, then you must see it clearly. What pulls you away from Allah was never sent by Him. Healing begins when you take gentle steps instead of harsh ones. Do not punish yourself for what you feel, but do not feed the feeling either. Give yourself space to breathe. The first step is to create distance from what reopens the wound. If old conversations or pictures keep the thought alive, remove them with kindness, not anger. The second step is to build small acts of worship that bring consistency back into your day. Even 2 rak'ahs of prayer or a short page of Quran recitation can begin to steady the heart. The third step is to give, even if it is a little. A small charity done sincerely can cleanse the heart from hidden attachments. The fourth step is to seek clarity through prayer, not by forcing signs, but by trusting Allah with the outcome. The final step is to surrender. Accept that what is written will reach you, and what is not written will never harm you. Healing is not forgetting, it is transforming the attachment into trust. When you practice this path, you will feel lighter because you are no longer carrying the story alone. Many times you believe you miss a person, but what you really miss is a version of yourself that once existed around them. You miss how your heart felt when it was hopeful. You miss the excitement of waiting for something you thought was near. You miss the way your du'as felt alive when you whispered their name, even though those whispers were never answered. Sometimes you do not miss them at all. You miss the feeling of being seen, the comfort of being chosen, the hope that your loneliness was about to end. And when that image collapses, your heart grieves, not only for them, but also for the self that believed. That is why the thoughts return. They are not always reminders of who they are, but of who you were when you carried the dream of them. This is painful because you feel like you are losing someone, but in reality, you are losing a season of yourself. To move forward, you must separate the person from the projection, the memory from the meaning, and the feeling from the fantasy. Only then can your heart rest in truth. Not every distraction comes dressed as sin. Sometimes it comes dressed as destiny. The nafs is clever. It can take a passing desire and wrap it in holy language until you believe it is a sign from Allah. You begin to treat every dream as a revelation, every coincidence as guidance, every glance as a divine message. It feels spiritual, but in reality, it may only be your longing disguised as qadar. This is the most dangerous test because no one around you can correct it. To you, it feels sacred, but inside it is only hunger. You hold on tighter, you resist advice, and you convince yourself that letting go would mean disobeying Allah, when in truth holding on is what is pulling you away. Real guidance never weakens your prayers. Real destiny never fills you with restlessness. What is from Allah strengthens your heart even if it hurts. What is from your desire clouds your heart even if it excites you. This is why illusions are the hardest trials. They do not tempt you openly. They trick you into believing your obsession is worship. There was a night you probably do not even remember clearly. You whispered a prayer through tears, asking Allah to bring them close if they were good for you and to take them away if they were not. You expected that the answer would feel gentle. You thought it would be clear and easy. But not every answered dua brings peace at the start. Some are answered with discomfort, so that the truth becomes visible. The thought of them may not be a confirmation that they are yours. It may be the reminder that you once begged for clarity. You asked Allah to show you, and now He is showing you in a way that strips illusions from your heart. That is why the thoughts return again and again. They are not always signs to move forward. Sometimes they are reminders that you already asked for the truth, and this is how the truth looks. Confusion is part of healing. Clarity is often uncomfortable before it becomes calm. And Allah never confuses to harm you. He allows confusion only to guide you back to Him with stronger trust than before. Sometimes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows a person to remain in your thoughts, not because they belong in your life, but because they reveal what is still inside your soul. Their memory becomes a mirror. It shows you the wounds you have not yet faced. It shows you the weight you place on human love. It shows you the fear of being alone that hides beneath your longing. These thoughts are not always chains to hold you back. Sometimes they are lessons meant to set you free. When a name keeps returning, it is not always about them. It can be about you. It can be about the way you tie your worth to being chosen. It can be about the way you cling to what you think you cannot live without. And Allah brings it forward again and again so you can finally see it. The thoughts remain until you learn to separate hope from dependence, longing from need, and love from illusion. This is how reflection becomes healing. It is not about chasing the person. It is about chasing the truth of who you are without them and who you can become with Allah. One of the hardest lessons in love is learning that closure does not always come from people. You think you need a final conversation, an apology, or a clear reason before you can move forward. But Allah may close a chapter without giving you those details. Silence itself can be a form of mercy. Distance itself can be a form of protection. The pain you feel is not always a sign that something is missing. Sometimes it is a sign that something harmful has been removed. You will not always understand it in the moment, but you can trust that Allah knows what you do not. He says in Surah Al-Baqarah that you may love something that is bad for you and hate something that is good for you, and Allah knows while you know not. Closure is not when they explain why they left. Closure is when you accept that Allah wrote it this way for a reason, even if you cannot see it yet. True closure is surrender. It is letting go of the need to control the story and resting in the truth that Allah is the author. When you want something deeply, the heart begins to search for signs everywhere. You replay the way they looked at you and decide it must have meant something. You dream about them and think it cannot be random. You see their name appear on your screen and take it as a message from heaven. But longing can create illusions. The mind connects dots that were never meant to be connected. The nafs is subtle. It does not always drag you into obvious sin. Sometimes it dresses desire in holy colors until you believe your craving is divine. This is the trap. You are not asking for clarity anymore. You are asking for confirmation of a story you wrote yourself. That is why the signs feel endless. It is not that Allah is speaking through them. It is that your heart is echoing its own hope and calling it revelation. Real signs do not pull you away from Allah. Real guidance does not make your prayers weaker or your heart heavier. If the thought of them leaves you more restless than grateful, more distracted than devoted, then what you are following is not a sign but a shadow. The difference between true guidance and illusion is subtle but clear if you are honest with yourself. Guidance always draws you closer to Allah Azza wa Jal. Even when it hurts, it leaves behind a sense of calm and a trust that He knows best. Illusion, on the other hand, leaves you restless. It makes you chase signs instead of building your faith. It makes you impatient in prayer and dissatisfied with qadar. Guidance strengthens your worship. It protects your dignity. It reminds you that love is not above your Lord. Illusion weakens your focus. It drains your energy. It convinces you that your peace depends on someone who may not even think of you. Ask yourself what happens to your iman when their thought appears. Do you pray with more presence, or do you struggle to stand before Allah? Do you feel gratitude, or do you feel despair? The answers to these questions reveal the source. Allah does not send attachments that pull you away from Him. He does not place in your heart what will corrupt it. If the thought makes you lose yourself, then it is not guidance, it is only illusion. When you feel trapped in thoughts you cannot escape, the best place to release them is in dua. But the way you ask matters. Many people pray for confirmation. They want Allah to say yes to the story they already wrote in their hearts. Real surrender is different. It is asking for truth, even if the truth is painful. It is saying, Ya Allah, if this person is good for my deen, my heart, and my akhirah, then bring them to me in a way that brings me closer to you. And if they are not, then remove them from me gently and heal the part of me that still wants them. This type of dua is heavy because it means letting go of control. But it is also freeing because it places your heart in the safest hands. You no longer need to decode signs or force outcomes. You no longer need to hold on to fantasies. Every time the thought returns, respond with dua. Not for them to be yours, but for Allah to protect your heart from what is not written. This is how obsession begins to soften into clarity. Sometimes the greatest mercy is the distance you never wanted. You may see it as rejection, but Allah sees it as protection. You may feel like something has been taken from you, but in reality, something harmful has been kept away. When you long for a person and they remain out of reach, it does not always mean you are being denied. It can mean you are being saved. Saved from heartbreak that would have broken your faith. Saved from a bond that would have weakened your prayer. Saved from an illusion that would have stolen years of your life. Distance feels cruel in the moment, but often it is the shield that guards you. The heart resists because it only sees the present. Allah sees the unseen. He knows what your future self will thank Him for. This is why surrender is vital. You cannot see the whole story, but you can trust the author of it. One day, the silence will make sense. One day, the unanswered prayer will reveal itself as answered in a better way. Until then, remember that absence itself can be the clearest sign of His mercy. Longing does not have to destroy you. It can shape you if you allow it. Every time the thought of them enters your heart, treat it as a signal to return to Allah. Redirect the energy of attachment into worship, into reflection, into healing. Instead of repeating old conversations in your mind, repeat dhikr on your tongue. Instead of searching for signs in their actions, search for signs in your own growth. Ask yourself, what is this longing teaching me about my needs? Is it showing me that I crave validation, that I fear loneliness, that I want to be seen? These are not weaknesses if you use them as mirrors. They reveal where your soul is still wounded. And wounds can be doors to closeness with Allah if you let Him heal them. Do not waste your longing by feeding the fantasy. Use it to identify what your heart still clings to besides Allah, then slowly release it. Growth happens when you turn your attachment into a teacher. When you see the pain not as punishment but as guidance. In this way, longing can become a bridge, not a prison. At some point, the struggle comes down to one choice. Will you follow your feelings or will you follow your faith? Feelings are powerful, but they are unstable. They rise, they fall, they change in a moment. Faith is steady. Faith anchors you when emotions try to pull you under. The real test is not whether you can stop thinking about them. The real test is whether you can place Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala above what you feel. Love is not proven by how much you hold on. Love is proven by how much you let go when it leads you away from your Lord. The heart was never created to worship another heart. It was created to worship the one who holds all hearts. Every time you choose faith over feelings, you strengthen your soul. You show Allah that you trust Him more than you trust your own desire. That is how you win the test. Not by forcing someone into your life, but by proving that your peace is not for sale. True love will never require you to betray your connection with Allah. If it does, then it is not love. It is only a trial. There is a special kind of peace that only comes when you surrender. At first, it feels like breaking. It feels like you are losing something precious. But slowly you realize you are gaining something greater. When you stop fighting for control, your heart begins to rest. You no longer chase signs. You no longer replay old memories. You no longer beg for what was never yours. Instead, you turn your hands upward and trust that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows what you cannot see. Surrender does not mean you stop caring. It means you stop carrying the weight alone. It means you release the illusion that you can force what is written. Peace enters when you finally admit that your story is safe with the one who wrote it. Every loss you accept becomes space for something better. Every tear you let fall becomes a seed for new growth. Strength is not found in holding on forever. Strength is found in letting go with faith. And the moment you surrender, the heart that once felt heavy with longing will begin to feel light with trust. That is the gift hidden in surrender. When the weight of thoughts refuses to leave, give your heart back to the one who owns it. There is a dua that can become your anchor. It is simple, but it carries depth. Say, Ya Allah, if this person is good for my deen, my heart, and my akhirah, then bring them closer in a way that brings me closer to you. And if they are not, then remove them from me gently and heal the part of me that still wants them. This dua is not about control. It is about release. It takes the burden from your chest and places it into the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is not a guarantee that you will receive what you want. It is a guarantee that you will receive what is better. Every time the thought returns, whisper this prayer. Do it when you wake, when you lie down, when the memory interrupts your day. Over time, you will notice something. The thought may still visit, but it will no longer rule you. The dua will turn obsession into clarity and pain into trust. That is how the heart learns to rest. Your healing is not only for you. Sometimes the strength you find in surrender becomes a source of hope for someone else. That is why sharing your prayer can matter more than you think. When you write a dua in the comments or send it to a friend, you may touch a heart that feels the same pain but has no words. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can use your voice as a reminder for another soul. Healing often multiplies when it is shared. You begin to realize you are not the only one who has carried secret thoughts, silent obsessions, or unanswered questions. Many others are walking through the same storm, searching for light. By leaving your dua, you build a bridge. You remind someone that they are not weak, that they are not alone, that they can release the weight into Allah's hands. In this way, the community becomes part of the cure. One prayer can spark another. One comment can ease a stranger's burden. One reminder can begin someone's turning point. Healing does not end with you. It spreads through you when you choose to share it. If your heart is heavy tonight, let it be heavy in the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Do not run back to old patterns and call it destiny. Do not shrink into fantasies and call them signs. Choose this moment as a turning point. Release what was never yours and hold on to what will never leave you. Remember that no person sent by Allah will require you to lose your connection with Him to keep them. If someone pulls you away from prayer, from peace, from gratitude, then they were not written for you. Trust that what is truly written will come with ease, and what is not will never harm you. Your story is already safe with the one who authored it. So breathe, let go, and step forward with faith. If these words touch something inside you, carry them with you. Whisper the dua tonight before you sleep. Share it with someone else who may need it more than you know. Healing is not a straight path, but every step counts. Until we meet again, May your heart find clarity, may your soul find peace, and may Allah hold you gently in His mercy.